Welcome back to 8 Cubes. I'm KMBest. Lambie is out. We've replaced him with the legendary deck builder Ika, one of the most prolific deck builders in Marvel Snap. To start us off with Scorpion Brand New Day, a 6/8 that doubles the affliction on all enemy cards. Now, Marvel Snap has had some very powerful doublers in the past, but they mostly haven't cost 6. So what do you make of Onslaught for Afflictions, as this card appears to be?
Well, let me just start by saying I'm so glad we're talking about this card post OTA because I think we would be in a completely different conversation if we had the Luke Cage that was before the OTA. I think Affliction cards in general suffer the most historically with new card releases because Luke Cage is just such a one answer card to Affliction because you can play it early to stop their plan, late to stop their plan, and not many tech cards do that, but we have a bit of a different Luke Cage now. So this card certainly will land a little bit better, I think. I still think this card's not very good though, and primarily comes down to one aspect, which is like, when do you play this card?
Yeah.
Because you're playing Affliction decks, and largely with Affliction decks, you want to basically put down your Ajax on 5 and then do the Affliction later on. Especially with Luke Cage, you want the back row of cards to be filled from the opponent's side of things. So you want to play your Hazmats very late, play your Lady Bullseye very late. So when do you even play this card? I'm assuming you're going to do some like magic decks that do like Wong stuff, but I just don't see it, to be honest.
Magic Wong stuff comes to mind. Another thing that comes to mind is, what if we are pulling this off of Polaris Horsemen of Pestilence? Like, stuff like that is like, I can see a direction that I want to go here. But fundamentally, this does sort of strike me as a Wong type card where the appeal is very strong for, like, if you don't disrupt me, I'm going to win the game by an incredibly large number, and you can't stop me from doing that. But also, I feel like it's a pretty disruptible thing. I will say this: I've gotten a decent amount more respect for Wong decks when they are interacting with power. Because a lot of the time, if you're just playing a Wong deck and all you're doing is making your own power, that's one thing. But a Wong deck that's also making sure that my opponent's Captain Carter deck isn't very good, I guess that's another thing, right? Like the fact that this is naturally attacking decks that are stacking buffs, I'm a little bit into that. But in practice, I don't know how real that is. And I worry that this is a card that, unless I'm pulling it off of Polaris, I'm not going to have enough afflictions on the board to make me feel good about it. Maybe what I'm supposed to be doing with this is using it with bigger afflictions. Like, am I supposed to be using this with Omega Sentinel? Is that the idea? Is this like I do Jocasta Omega Sentinel and I just go -14, -14? Jocasta Omega Sentinel Prodigy and this? Is that a thing? That feels like a playline I could take where it's just like, here goes a billion negative power, and your bigger cards are more likely to be in the back line and not necessarily protected by Luke Cage, and I'm never going to have priority. That said, I mean, I get Cosmic Ghost Ridered and instantly lose the game, but like there's stuff there where it's like, okay, if I get -70 power onto my opponent's board, that's got to be good, right?
Yeah, no, it's like, it's basically your Odin, right?
Yeah.
Like you know those like Sarah Affliction decks that also kind of are surfer decks sometimes. You see it with
Toxic
like low
Surfer,
CL.
baby.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's kind of like an Odin in that deck, right? Like you set up your Wong Mystique stuff, and then you just play this on top to really really double down on that Affliction. But it runs into the same issues as something like Omega Sentinel would, which is it's so easy to disrupt. You're not hiding your game plan in any sort of way. You're just like, here's what I'm gonna do. You better stop me. And that's pretty much it.
Spider-Sense is a card that I understand why it is what it is, because I think if they had done any of the things that would make it a better card, it'd be a really scary, really painfully good card. Like, Spider-Sense, 5-cost skill, its cost gets decreased by 1 for every movable card you play. So if you curve out a movable card on 1 through 5, which means you're not playing an Aunt May, it is 0 cost, right? But this is also a card where it's like, I can very easily see that if this card cost 4, you'd be running a real risk of this being free power. You'd be like, oh, that's a free card. I should not be letting this deck get a free card. Here's the thing. The movable deck is so mid that maybe you can just let them get a free card. Like, maybe that's actually okay.
Yeah, no, it's so undercooked, the archetype, right?
Yep.
Like, you put all these cards into your deck, right? These movable cards, which again are very limited. We have like what, like 7 of them or something like
I
that.
want to say it's
And they're all
9, but 2 are really bad or something like that.
sure.
Like,
Yeah, even the 7 that I'm thinking of are like,
you might
you
actually
can
just
run
be
it.
7, and I'm counting like Sam Wilson or whatever, because at least he triggers Aunt May,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, either way, there's like 3 good ones.
Yeah.
And the problem with that archetype is like, okay, so if I want to get some maximum output for my Aunt May, I have to put like 6 of these cards in my deck. And then I also have to play them out and move them to get the Aunt May benefit and get the Spider-Sense benefit. And then you're like, where are my points even coming from? Because I used up the best part of those cards, which is to move them towards the end of the game. I've I'm holding like 3/5, which isn't bad. Like a Nocturne isn't bad, but let's be honest, there's better scalers, there's better engine cards out there. So you just run into this problem of like, I'm just not really doing much. That's not to say that Spider-Sense will be bad card. It's not really the fault of the card itself. It's more just that just don't have enough tools to help this type of archetype yet.
Yeah. And Spider-Sense, I'm realizing I'm not actually sure I said what it did. It gives 2 power to the cards at the location that it's played, discounting its cost for every movable you have played. So in theory, this is like a 1/6, a 2/6, going on to movable cards. Here's the other question. Is this just like a better enabler than Aunt May? Because at least it's not asking you to use the movables. Because you talked about how Aunt May's biggest thing is like she's asking you to, the reason you play these cards is so you can move them on 6. And Aunt May is like, what if you didn't do that? And it's like, okay, but like I want to do that, so can you please let me do that? So the best things to play with Aunt May are like Sam Wilson, who at least triggers her every turn of the game without demanding more from you, and Spider-Man Brand New Day, who can move twice.
Yeah.
And you just kind of otherwise are sitting there like, I'm kind of using a lot of the reason I'm playing this card to get +1, +2 power and -1 cost. At least this guy is not asking you to use that part up just to play all of them.
Yeah, it seems better in that sense for sure. I think what Aunt May needs to do in general is think about how to structure a deck that is all about turn 6 dump. Because I think that's what the card incentivizes, right? It's like, how do I discount all these cards, hold secret power in my hands so that you're surprised by my power output in terms of my energy and all that. And both Spider-Sense and Aunt May, don't allow you to do that. They want you to play those cards out early. So we'll see. I just think you're right. Like this could have been a 0/6. Like you could give a 0/6 to this archetype. I think like make this a 4 cost.
Yep.
That's easy to do.
For a card that I think the wide consensus on is that it's pretty medium, I've kind of seen a pretty astonishing amount of Boomerang, which I think speaks to the deep-seated love of bounce in Marvel Snap's player base. Like, and also to the OTA, which nerfed some of the things that made bounce extremely difficult to play, like decks that comboed over the top of it, and more importantly, decks that played the card Gambit, Horseman of Death, who functions as Invisible Woman plus Killmonger for a bounce deck, basically, and there's no way to dodge him. So that's obviously something that not existing is very good for the bounce deck. That said, where are you at on Boomerang as a card right now? I feel like I'm a little higher than most, where it's like, I actually think he might be one of the 12 cards you're supposed to play in a bounce deck. And I'm not sure everyone else thinks that.
I think that Boomerang is maybe one of the clunkiest cards I've played in recent memory. It's super, super, super clunky to play. Now, I will concede this. I think you do play this in bounce. Like, what are you gonna do? Not play this in?
It's good. It's like, oh, that's a lot of power.
It's it's good power, it's decent power, and it's not a one cost. So at least you're not like super vulnerable to somebody doing Killmonger stuff or something like that. You still have some sort of way to get power on the board and do your game plan without being vulnerable to those kind of things. And even Gambit, Horseman of Death, right? Like extra cost on all of your cards matters to counter that deck because if it's a one cost, it's a lot more likely to die. Where if it's a two cost, it could, like
We're still dead.
I'm just trying to,
like,
I'm still trying to grab something. Okay, I just think this card is really really bad. Like when I shared my thoughts like online about this card, like people were like, oh, I don't know, it's like a 2/10, in an ideal situation, but it's like, no, you forget you have to play this card back out. It's a 4/10, and that keeps it really locked into bounce only. Whereas like I could see playing this card in other archetypes if it was just a little bit better.
It's close, but like in as much as bounce has a strength right now, the games I play against bounce, this cards that are like sort of cumulatively adding up over time are like Iceman and Silver Sable and this. And then I look at my hand and I'm like, there's nothing good in here. And like, in as much as bounce has a strength, I think that kind of disruption is a big part of it, where that sort of softer disruption is not as like slam the door shut as it is playing like, a Mobius against the Mr. Negative deck or Stardust against a Hella deck. You win those games every time. The bounce deck just has a lot of like, sometimes this hits the right stuff. I had a game where the Boomerang went back to hand. The first Boomerang proc put -3 on my Iska. That is no longer an Iska, right? And it's like that's really good. If I was able to know if they were able to know that's what they did, they probably would have snapped it on that, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff is like, I don't necessarily know what I'm hitting with Sable and Boomerang. I don't know how bad their hand is, and I have to be the one playing the game and making those decisions based on not knowing that. And I think that a lot of the time, the downside for these cards would have been alleviated if you did know that, but also they'd probably be a little too strong if you did know that. And so you have this dynamic where I think you don't really have access to information on how strong your game plan is on a game-to-game basis, because the best parts of your game plan to me are the bits that disrupt your opponent's hand. Those are the things that are unique to bounce, about what bounce does. And I just think that like that is causing some of the, at least, perception of the card being a little too weak.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky to think about the card outside the context of bounce, because I feel like it could be thought about it in that way. And also, I just don't know how do you make this card better, because you can't put this.
I got a proposal for you. Yeah, you ready?
Okay. All right.
2,
Mhm.
3. Solved it.
Oh, we're different level over here. Yeah, no, I don't know. You can't make this one cost, I'll tell you that much.
No, it
'Cause then
definitely can't be a
it's
one
like
cost,
busted
and it
card.
can't be an on reveal. And I
Yeah.
don't know what else you're supposed to do other than 2-3 it.
Plus 1 power.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about the Boogeyman. The nerf to Mother Esgani was extremely significant, both to Gambit, Horseman of Death, and to Captain Carter. So those are the next two topics. Mother Esgani, of course, going to a 4/4 that does not buff the original card, which means that stacking Mother Esgani buffs does not stack anymore. It also means that that card is kind of not being played. Like, I'm just not seeing people do it, and I've tried it, and I gotta tell you, I think the people that are not doing it, they're on to something. I tried some Mother Esgani stuff, and I was like, wow, this is bad. I realized that like Mother Esgani is still probably a strong enough card for people to do stuff with, but I don't think either of these decks have figured out a good way to make it happen in that in the way that they would want. Maybe it's still possible. Maybe they both need more time in the oven, but as someone who typically likes playing off meta, what does Gambit not being everywhere do for you? And I guess secondarily, what does he not let you do when he is everywhere?
Yeah, Gambit is one of the most restrictive cards when it comes to building decks in this game. Because anything that you want to like put together that's like off meta, that you want to try some new archetype, really does depend on 2-cost and 3-cost scalers. You think, look at Batroc decks, right? Like, obviously, this is a very strong deck that we'll talk about, but that deck, when Gambit first released, got completely blown out from the meta because it was just so easy to just delete their Craven, delete their Sam Wilson, whatever. It stops you from building decks that require you to build up your power early on by having a game board presence and letting those cards scale. Like, I would be so scared to play something like Strange Supreme, right? A card that's all about going super, super tall in one lane and then winning another lane through some other sort of power, right? When Gambit is around, you can't really do that because it just takes one Gambit to completely delete all of your 6-turn investments into that card, basically. So having less Gambit around certainly opens up more room to try those kinds of decks and try to explore other ways to scale, even discard, right? Like, you don't want your Morbius to get deleted. And that's a very important card for discard. And now I'm seeing a little bit more decks like that, like discard, kind of being more brave and feeling like, okay, I can play this deck and not completely die to Gambit because Gambit is a little bit harder to make work with Mother Esgani's nerf. So in that sense, it's really good. I still see a lot of Gambit personally. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for people to realize that it's just not going to output the same type of power without Mother Esgani. It always takes a little bit of a time to catch up to that, but I think we'll get there eventually. I think this was pretty significant nerf.
Yeah, like I've played some of the more like old school D-hand Gambit decks where it's like playing Misery again and playing the Hood, and it's like I got 4 Gambits one time, and every other game I'm playing, he's just like a 3/5 that does what he does. Like it's sometimes I'll get 2 of him, but I am not doing it anywhere near the regularity I used to have with the deck. Captain Carter, I think you could argue, hurt even more than Gambit by the loss of Mother Esgani, and I don't know exactly why. I think there's a couple of things going on. The first is I think Mother Esgani was really supplementing Storm Horsemen of War's or Storm Horsemen of Famine's downside, which is her downside is that you don't do anything for 3 turns, basically. And when you're doing that, one thing that's really good is to say, okay, I'm cheating a bunch of energy on the back end. I don't care that I'm not doing anything for 3 turns. And in fact, maybe it helps me dodge some interaction. I play Mother Esgani, I Grandmaster it, and I take the cards that Storm buffed, I double them, and then I double them. And it's like, okay, that is awesome. If Mother Esgani isn't doing that anymore, and you're not realizing the gains of the cards you play Mother Esgani on a lot of the time, you're kind of losing out on what the deck was built around doing. And that's not to say you still don't have a really powerful nut draw, right? Like, you can still do Storm, Captain Carter, Maverick, Prodigy, Brood. You can still do that exact thing. It's just like every other game you play where you're like, well, what am I doing? A lot of the time the answer was, I'm playing Mother Esgani. And that gave you time to put your game plan together, gave you powerful game pieces. And the worst thing that could happen in the scenarios where you played Mother Esgani was, okay, well, my turn 5 is the 2 cards I got from Mother Esgani, the one I used it on and the one I copied, and then like a 1-drop, right? That's like really good. That's a really good turn 5. That's like, oh, my floor is really high. That's your floor. And so you kind of have a much lower floor now in those decks where like sometimes you'll just do this stuff and you're just like, I'm not doing anything. I didn't do anything. I have done nothing this entire game. And Mother Esgani, really significant that happened, I think.
Yeah, no, undoubtedly. Carter decks now are like, oh, you better draw your Hope Summers. And I think because you just don't have any other way to get that extra bump to your deck, which Mother Esgani covered for quite a lot, and there's also something to be said about the information disparity that you got with Mother Esgani in Carter deck specifically, because a lot of times when I was playing against that deck, I'd be like, okay, so they did 2 Mother Esganis with Grandmaster. They could have anything. Yep. It could be 3 Brutes. It could be 3 Sticks. It could. I have no clue what to exactly play around, and that creates confusion. You make bad decisions, and you win whatever percent that helps you with, right? and you also lose that factor. So now it's like pretty face up when you're playing against a Carter deck. Their best combo is going to be doing like Prodigy, Maverick stuff, and you're like, at that point you should be able to judge whether you're going to win or lose that game. There's no guessing it at that point. So yeah, it's just become like a very very combo deck. Like it used to be a combo deck to begin with, but it's like super combo deck now.
I think an underappreciated part of Mother Esgani's power is that thing you mentioned, which is people would just stay. They'd be like, well, I don't know what it is. And now nobody will. Now nobody is going to be like, if you're doing something strong, everyone knows you're doing something strong. You've become Mr. Negative, where it's like, nobody's going to be like, yeah, I got this into the 95 power brood that you're about to make. Nobody's going to be chilling on that, you know? And they used to be chilling on some Mother Esganis, at least more than they were on this. Like, at least more than you would into the face of, like, the obvious brood. People would be willing to stay into that way more. And now it's just, like, I do think that, like, yeah, there is something to be said for, like, the deck lost cube equity here. Because now it has to be on board.
Yeah. And then when you lose cube equity, you also have to, like, gain consistency, and it also loses consistency.
Yeah, it didn't gain that either. Yeah. Next up, the new kings of the metagame. I mean, I guess, you know, there are a couple old ones, right? Like Super Giant's pretty good right now. I've been playing Doom 2099, but I'll kind of do that whenever. That's just the thing I do. But Batroc is everywhere. So do you think this is, you know, sustainable? Is it like a Batroc world? Are we living in Batroc land right now? And if so, how long do you think it's going to be until someone figures out a way to play 4 gambits reliably?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? I do think Batroc Shell is the best, and the reason for that is it's the smallest package that you can put together that has the highest amount of points that you can feel free to put other things into. Look at what like is most successful decks on top of the ladder usually, right? Like you have a good strong points package that's about 7 cards or so, and then you have slots for tech or whatever other helping piece that you want to put in there. And Batroc shells allow you to do that the easiest right now. I personally like if I'm playing Batroc, I'm going to put in some cards that I just like playing that aren't optimal, like Tarantula, because you can just afford to do that because the shell is just that strong. I will say it's not that difficult to counter, in my opinion. Like, you do have tools to stop it. You have Mercury, you have Shadow King, you have, Electra, Killmonger, whatever it is, you can counter the deck. It's not as, like, one-sided, in my opinion. Like, I have harder time countering V-hand decks or, like, Gambit decks with Mother Esgani because those decks are just all about turn 6 and hidden information. And objective cards famously are just very difficult to counter because they just happen post-game, so you can't even throw priority or anything like that. Whereas Batroc at least is like, it has to get the engine going right away. Only hidden information that it's ever going to be is like where they jug, where they Cosmo, and where does a Hydra Stomper go. That's basically it. As long as you're making informed decisions in that sense, you're going to have an okay time. But certainly, Batroc is up there, and like Multiple Man is certainly also another contender for that top spot.
Yeah, I if you put a gun to my head and we're like, KMBest, what's the best deck in Marvel Snap? I'd be like, you didn't need a gun to do that. You should watch my YouTube videos. But it's Multiple Man, right? Like, it just kind of is. Like, I am horrified of that deck because you talk about like decks that need the engine running early. I feel like with Multiple Man, I have way more leeway to just like, oh, my engine happened on turn 5. Like, whoops, here's 60 power. My bad. I didn't expect it to happen that way, but it did. Here's my turn 5. I played a Symbiote Spider-Man on turn 4. And then turn 5, what I did was play a phenomenally powerful Multiple Man. And it's like, oh, okay. I guess you win. Guess you win. All right. I guess you made, my bad. I guess you made 40 power on turn 5 and the juggernauted me. All right. Well, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of deck building, I think you're well known as a bit of an off meta, different angle taker, right? So What is it that you find I guess there's two questions wrapped up in here. Do you find it more fulfilling to try to attack an already solved meta, or do you enjoy it a little more when it's early? Because I can see the upsides and downsides to both. When it's early, a lot more stuff works, right? But when things are solved more, you have a much better idea of what you're actually doing. And I'm kind of just asking because right now we're early. It feels like a lot of things are working. Are you just focusing on different things? Is it like I am focusing on raw power output now because it's early? Is that how things? Is that how you approach things in this context?
Yeah, usually like this period of the meta when it's like a little bit confusing, not many people aren't sure what the best thing is my favorite time because I can kind of just explore and see like what's working, what's not working. Like I can't reliably play decks that I have an idea for in a solved meta because I just think, oh no, this deck will just die to this deck will just get countered by that, and lack of creativity comes in, and I just play the same three decks. So in that sense, it's much better to be playing in this situation when okay, we could play an affliction deck. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the thing to do. Oh, maybe it's discard. I don't know. Like, let me just try this stuff. And a lot of the times it will work. You will start to see what people are gravitating towards as well. And you start to, shift your deck according to that. However, in solved metas, I also kind of like playing because I'm pretty good at targeting decks. Like one of the strengths that I've had early on when I was playing in tournaments is I just realized like what the meta is, what people are going to bring, and how do I counter that reliably and also have points of my own, right? And I've usually been good at that. Anytime there's like two decks that are the strongest, I've usually done really well on ladder because I'm just able to target exactly what the meta needs, and I'm able to do it early on. Usually, is the thing. Like I'm maybe not the best at bringing the best 12 cards to counter the meta, but at least I'll be able to get to the 10 cards very quickly. And that's enjoyable on its own. I always encourage people to play whatever you think is the most interesting to play, no matter what the meta is, really, because you are going to be more engaged with the game if you're playing a deck that you like, and you're going to make more informed decisions. You're going to be pay attention to what is happening on the board. Like I could be playing like when Mr. Negative Star-Lord deck was the strongest. I played like 2 games of that, and I was so checked out using that deck that I was just making completely like wrong decisions all the time because I was not engaged with the deck. So that's also something to consider.
I particularly enjoy like dumb guy play styles. Like people sometimes are like, "You're better than this," and it's like I'm really not. like just because I am good at the game doesn't mean that every time I play the game I want to be like, "All right, I need to make this perfect Juggernaut read." A lot of the time, I vastly prefer to just be like, "What's up? I played a card one. I played 1 card a turn." I played 6 cards this game. It's like I really am not better than any of that. Like I'm a big like let's take the mental load off of me so I can think more about my opponent kind of player, right? Like the less I'm thinking about what the correct play is for me, the more I can think about what the correct play is for them and how my play lines up into that, right? And so I typically tend to go the other way. I want to be less engaged in my own gameplay. I don't want to be thinking about what I have to do at all. I want to be thinking about what you have to do the entire time. Last up, it's Ika's soapbox.
Okay. This is not related to the meta. It's not related to deck building. I just want to talk about the typography and the font choices in this game. I think it's one of the most underrated parts of like the art direction in this game. Now, I'm not sure if all of the typography is made in house. I'm sure that some of them are like already established, like comic book cover typography and things like that. But there's just so many little gems in this game. Like, look at Arshem's typography. The A in Arshem having the Arshem face in there as well. Brilliant. Like you don't notice this, you don't notice these things when you're playing the game, but it does register in like the unconscious part of it. Like as an artist, like it really is something that I try to pay attention to quite a lot. There's so many examples like werewolf by night having the little moon in there. You don't register that when you're looking at it. You're just reading werewolf by night, but in your mind, you're always going to associate that little moon and it's a werewolf, and it makes like the flavor connection so much better. And there's so tons and tons of examples. Every single card has like different font. That's not insignificant. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of thought, and that's a lot of flavor that is put into this game that goes unappreciated, I think.
I have two things I wanted to say here. The first is pithy joke, which is, oh, right, of course, the guy whose mustache is in italics appreciates the font. The second is, I think there's another aspect here, though, which is the way splitting and the split system interact with the art people actually make. Like, it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently in a different context, is like, wow, that must be a huge part of the process for making a card. Is like, not only do you have to go get this art, you have to vet that this art makes sense with the splits in the game. You have to vet that it's 3D'able, because they aren't giving them 3D art. I did the thing with Justin Fields. He just gives them art, right? And they do all the things on that, right? Like there is, I think, to go along with the point you're making, there's actually kind of a ton that goes into this kind of concepting and delivering on cards in this way that dork-ass losers like me don't think about at all. We see Werewolf by Night, we're like, interesting scalar. Look at that. It's a scalar. I can play this with Prowler. Like, we don't think about any of this stuff, the like sort of artistic expression of the game. But it's actually, I think, pretty crucial to it, because one of the reasons I started playing this game was because of the team that Ben Brode brought with him from Hearthstone, who got so many feel things correct. Playing Hearthstone is still a great feeling game to play, in the sense of like, what happens when you win? You hit the neck, like the people are cheering, everything, like just a lot of things like that you'd think people would have internalized about card games. Hearthstone manages to deliver on them very well, and a lot of those bones were laid by people who are the people who started Second Dinner. And so knowing that I'd have a satisfying experience playing the game was why I wanted to play the game. And that kind of stuff, like, I think that you're right, that this is a big part of the game that I don't think about a lot because of the nature of my content.
Yeah. No, it's you don't think about it when you're like playing the game, but like Iron Man having the certain weight that it does when it pops on the board, and then the animation that it does, and the sound, all of these things have to
modifies
work really nice.
Like the double, right? The little arc reactor thing that happens to the location. Like, there's just a bunch of cool stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have that feel down, and it has to do with everything, right? Like the font, the border break, whatever. If you don't have that feel, you just don't get people playing the game. No matter how good your game is, you have to make it feel good. And big shout out to them for...
Yeah, they are really good at that.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been KMBest, but he's been Ika, and you can find his links in the description. Oh, you didn't have anything?
No, I mean...
No, it's fine. We'll cut it off on I mean.